Wesley ALLSBROOK. I'm an artist, an art director, and a writer. I wanted to, well, I mean, at that time I wanted to be an English major, and I wanted to study writing. And I don't know, drawing was really easy. Drawing got me a lot of approval, and I also wanted to go to school very far away. And I knew that I couldn't get far enough from home using the explanation that there weren't enough good schools in my area. Now I do. I really kind of hadn't for the past 10 years. The closest I got was making comics, and then mostly for myself. Like I once took a class with David Mazzucchelli, but I was so impressed by him and loved his work so much that I couldn't bear to take the class. Like that's how much I wanted to make comics. Yeah, I don't know, since working in production, I feel like for whatever reason, maybe I just got older, I gained a lot of confidence. And so now my creative partner and I write things, and like we sell TV shows. That's what we do now. Right now we're selling adult animated comedy. So the difference between VR painting and painting as we know it is that VR painting isn't painting, it's just sort of built with a little bit of a painted language. I think it's probably actually sculpture or architecture, depending on the relationships that you establish between figure and ground, between your viewer and their environment. Because these paintings are not just paintings, they're objects, and potentially not just objects, but environments. There's no denying that what VR painting is polygons. It's just a new way to express the language of 3D art. It's very binary to ask a person to put aside a pencil or a paintbrush or any kind of flat media for VR. Like I really feel that the skill sets that inform painting and drawing and everything else in a two-dimensional way can also be brought into the VR world. I think that, I don't know, like there's no reason why people should not experience VR. It really did change my life, but I still draw and paint in the usual way. Most recently, I've been working with the Washington Post on a piece about gun violence. This past year, made this show which continues to expand called Cosmo Rama Rama, that takes kind of stylistic elements from Victorian fairy painting and French gardens and uses them for me to talk about how I feel about working in tech. I mean, like I said, I'm really interested in continuing to work in 2D animation to make work for women in particular. Phelps versus Shark was one of many jobs like it that I have done over the past, I don't know, like 2 years since Dear Angelica came out. After Dear Angelica, because not a lot of sort of long-form fictional VR was being made, and like because I didn't want to work in a studio again for a while, I took branded content jobs. And perhaps, as you know, many corporations have been using VR activations to elevate their content. And what happened on the television network was they had Michael Phelps racing a great white off the coast of South Africa. He wasn't actually doing it. So I created a VR dramatization of that event. It was one of the silliest jobs I've ever done. But it looks okay. I think that the way the women artists and engineers and VFX artists are viewed in this community are changing, and they're building their own communities. In Los Angeles alone, there's this community called Glitch City, and it's pretty much 50-50 down the line gender-wise. And there are lots of artists, technical artists, and engineers there who are all kind of successfully working together and working on projects about gender and about consent. Over the past couple of years, women seem to form their own communities when they find themselves to be ignored by the communities that educated them. When I perform, I don't think of it as performance, and a lot of it is very pre-baked. I like to come in with an asset that is in parts, and I like to expose those parts over time. I find the expectation of the performing artist to be a bit exploitative, a bit silly, because it doesn't really represent the way that working in VR actually is. I mean, when you work in VR, you sit at your desk with scoliosis and you move your hands and tiny gestures, and I don't know, it's not performative. Like, it's labor, and to treat it as a performance is a little bit infantilizing. I don't really expect anything what do I expect from my audience? I don't know. Like, it's nice if people ask questions. I think that I'm probably tired of being asked the same questions, and I prefer it if the audience actually, like, I would rather put the audience in VR, because watching me do VR, like, how can that be entertaining to you? Yeah. So for the Sun Ladies, I think that my role was kind of a little bit shoehorned in. Like, everybody made that film for nothing because it was a good cause. I only needed to create these kind of tiny looping animations and this one large scene, which was procedurally animated using Houdini. So that was drawn by me, but the actual animation work of those assets was done by someone who had worked with me with Story Studio, whose name was John Kuntz. I think that Tomorrow Stories is a really ambitious event. Like, I think that this is a very young festival, but what I've seen in terms of audience engagement has been really encouraging, particularly from the students that I've met. I don't know, like, it's my hope that with every year VR festivals grow in sophistication, in the ways that they think about how they're presenting the work, how they interact with the technology, and I don't know, like, I really, what do I want most from festivals in general? I think, I don't know. I wish there was a better way to do this, because it's so hard to show VR to large numbers of people. And so I'm really kind of excited about next year's tech, because I think that technology over the next few years is only going to make this festival work easier, or I hope anyway. I hope that the work that I'm doing now encourages other artists, and I hope that it will also help artists to get better contracts in tech in particular, and also to push the conversation about licensing VR art forward. I have struggled all my life with how to maintain legal control of the assets that I create, and VR is no kind of exception. And so really, those are the two things that I care about. I care about women in this space, and I care about artists' rights. And so, I don't know, I hope that I can do something there. Thank you for having me. This is great.